So now we are going to make ruffles. So ruffles is a very important technique. Now you enter into fondant, and then there are a lot of places where we use ruffles for, and then there are quite a few different variations, but they are quite similar. But in the past, as I've been teaching ruffles to the students, to my students even in the physical class or in the online mode, there is a gentle confusion of the similar kind of ruffles but then placed in a different way. So I thought I have to just do it and show. So this cake I have just divided into 6 sections. So there are just 6 different ways in which I want to do the ruffles. Like 4 of them are going to be quite similar, just the placement is going to vary, and then 2 of them are like the quite interesting stuff, which I'm just going to keep it to the end. So to start with, now that's a black colored fondant draped on a dummy. It's an 8-inch dummy. To just have a better visibility, I am just using a pastel pink fondant. So I'm just going to start with rolling out strips. You could just roll out like a bigger sheet, like a big circle, and then cut them out as well. Both works, but I prefer just going on with strips. And you want the working counter to be dusted with corn flour. I'm just going to run a pizza cutter half width. Okay, so I am just going to use toothpick now to ruffle. So these strips are about a centimeter wide. Okay. So I'm just going to use a toothpick. Keep the tip of the toothpick on the edge of the fondant. Okay, you don't put the toothpick all through the entire strip. Just place it through the first like half of the width of the strip. Use your finger and just go back and forth, okay, and lift that up. You want this sheet to be moving freely. Lift the toothpick up and then, okay, lift and then place it back and forth. Back and forth. You can see this first place where you ruffled is just starting to have the waves formed. So keep lifting, do back and forth. You don't want the fondant to be sticking to the counter, and that is why you need corn flour. Okay, you see how the ruffles keep going. So back and forth. So you keep lifting. I'm lifting not just because I just want to show it to you, but then that's how it works. You just can't be rolling and then going all the way. You have to just do one portion at a time. Okay. So once you get the hang of it, so once you have this ruffles forming, and then when you have the hang of it, then you could just speed the process up. But then even if you are just working faster, the step will still be the same. Now you notice that the entire stretch has been thinned down. You can see the thickness of the width here, but then this entire strip, the edge has been thinned down as the ruffles are formed. Now there is one mistake that there is a possibility you could make, that you're leaving out a bit of the thickness from here and then starting to ruffle by just having a gap. Now when you have that gap, then the uniformity in which the ruffles are formed is not going to be there. So you just need to be sure, only because you are lifting and then you are placing it at another level, and you have to ruffle it in such a way that it merges with the thicker edge that you just finished doing. So the back and forth happens at a very short space. You just need to go back and forth. Okay, so you have the ruffles done on one of the strip, and when you have ruffled, that's what you will be having. Okay, so now I'm just going to use this on the cake. Now obviously you will not be able to have a entire stretch even if you have to go around the cake. Okay, so I'm just going to use water and then brush. I'm going to use this section. Now if I'm going to go around, like when you're going to do it on a cake, you may not be doing it in sections, or maybe if you like it that way, then you could just go on to do on different ruffles on different sections as well, like how I'm doing. But however, if you have to do it on like a themed cake where the entire cake has to be covered with a single kind of ruffle, then the stretch will continue. So once you've just done with one entire stretch, then the next strip will just continue, and then you finish one complete row, and then you move on to the row under the first one. Now what I am going to show is stick to this panel, and when I finish this, I'm just going to cut off the excess, and I'm going to go down to show how it is to stick another layer under the first one. So for which I'm just going to dab water. Just go on and brush. Just going to cut and start with a straight side. So the second row will start in such a way that it will hide the base, but then you also need to show the first row of the ruffles. Okay, so I'm just going to get some more of the ruffles made, and then I'll just get back to show how I'm going to finish the rest of the section. So I have all these ruffles made. I'm just going to attach them and continue the ruffles. So once you apply water, just go one layer down, make sure to stuck well. Just have one last row. So you will finish up till the bottom edge of the cake. Okay, so this section of having the ruffles facing upwards is just done. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next section, which is this one. Now I want to place these ruffles at an angle, like diagonally when you place. And when you place it diagonally, there are two ways in which the ruffles will be facing upward. Now if the ruffles are going to face upward, then you start from the top. Now if the diagonal ruffles are going to face downward, then we start from the bottom. Now even here, this is like the waves, right? Now so we started from the top. Now if the ruffles have to face upward, you start from the top and then stick one below the other. Now if the same ruffles which are horizontally placed have to be facing downward, say maybe you are making a doll cake and then you're working on the ruffles to make like the frocks frills around on the doll cake, then your ruffles wouldn't be facing upward, they would be facing downward. Now if the ruffles are going to face downward, you start from the bottom and then go stick one above the other. So similarly, now on the diagonal one, I'm going to start by the ruffles facing upward, so I will be starting from the bottom. Okay, so I'm just going to start applying water. Okay, you can start with like the really small one here. I'm going to use a toothpick. And then I'm just going to use one that is a bit bigger. Now this is a pretty wider strip. Now I don't want to start from the black because I want the distance between each of the ruffle to be even. In that case, you go on and then brush some water on that ruffle. So you can just go a bit over that ruffle. So I'm just going to get a cake stand or a turntable, so it will just be useful now, especially when we are going to work on ruffles that are facing downward, and also because it is going to go till the low level and then stick them. It's always good to have a bit of space around in there, and so I'm just going to continue the ruffles. So we have completed the diagonal ruffles as well. We just take a look. The ruffles facing upward and then the ruffles facing downward and again diagonally. Now if this entire thing was facing downward, you can just imagine this whole thing would be upside down, starting from the base, where you will have the row starting from down and then going up. Okay, so now another pretty similar one where the ruffles are going to be vertical. Okay, so let's see how we get the vertical ruffles here. So I'm just going to use this section. I'm just applying water. So see, there are ways in which the entire thing is just going to be on one side. So you start from one side and then all through go on the same direction. And there is also a way where there is a center in which you could just have beads and then have the ones on the right side facing towards the right side and ones on the left facing towards the left. Now let's see both of them, so we just get an idea of how to put the left and the right together. In that way, I just want to find a center point. So this will again be the center of this section. Now I'm just going to have part facing on the other side. So now if I am going to have the ruffles facing towards that side, then if in case, okay, I'm just going to start from here. Now where would the next one be, right? So now if I'm going to have ruffles here facing on the opposite side, I need to start from that end. So I can have it covering from that side, and that is where I can come all the way to the middle. So now just because the line is here, I cannot start from the center point. I have to start from outside and then come and reach the center. Okay, so I'm going to have one strip there, and so that will be the last one facing this direction. Now I'm just going to do the other side. So I'll have ruffle starting from the extreme end. So let me just dab with a little more water. So just merging in the center. The center is where you could just add bead border or just have the pearls, sugar pearls even, to just go on in the middle and then decorate. So I'm just going to cut off excess from the top edge. Okay, so we have 3 styles done. The 4th style is like the rosette ruffle. So now we are going to make the rosette ruffle. So the rosette ruffle starts with a flower in the center, and then the ruffle keeps going spiral around that center. Okay, so to make that center, I'm just going to have a small piece of the ruffle, and then I'm going to make a rolled rose. So I'm just going to fold it here and then keep folding it. Now I'm just going to pinch the base as I'm going around. Now giving more space around here on the front while I pinch the base. Okay, so once I have the basic rose using ruffles, now I may just go and chop this out. I don't want that excess that I've been pinching. And now let me just start with the center. Now the rosette ruffles are quite heavy, and as you're spiraling around, it tends to just drag down because of gravity. So you find the centermost place where you want to do the rosette ruffle. Start with the rosette ruffle, but then start like one point up. So with the gravity, as it just pulls itself down, it is going to find another center, and because that should be the actual center of the rosette ruffle. Okay, so now this is the center, but I'm just going to start or level up. So apply the glue as and when you need. So I'm just going to place the rosette here, and I'm just going to start attaching the flower from the back. Okay, so use the toothpick and make sure the first flower attaches quite well. Okay, so once that is done, you just need little bit of water around this flower. So I'm going to go around and start from where I had stopped. So use a toothpick. We could use a Dresden tool as well. And you just need to continue by going around behind the layers that you're just working, and then just fold it to the front and use a toothpick to just put them in place. So as each row goes, apply water as you need. Start from where you leave. So now the tendency of these ruffles that are above are just going to fall down, and then it's not going to show the layers. So keep pushing it up and make sure that you are finding the layers and they are just not getting merged and falling one over the top. Just ensure each layer is just seen properly. So once you have the complete circle done, there will be the corners which are just incomplete and you're not able to just go around the center anymore, which will be this end. So you just start filling up that end alone instead of having to completely go over. Okay, so the rosette ruffle is complete here. So there are few things which you can just keep in mind. Now as you are doing the work, then there are places where this ruffle just falls down on the other one and that falls down on the other one, and then you're not able to show the layers, unlike the rows at the bottom, because that stays, because that is supposed to be falling down, which is going on well. But however, you can see these ruffles which are just falling over the other, and because you don't want that to fall down, what you actually do is just to poke a toothpick there and then allow it to be. Now wherever you feel that it is just falling down, until it just takes its time to dry, you're just going to have toothpicks poked. So you just let the layers seen and the gaps between each of the rosettes are seen. Just have toothpicks poked. Just trying to lift open. This is going to be there for some time until the rosettes take its shape and then completely dry out. Okay, so let's allow this to dry out, and now let's move on to the next one. So now we are moving on to the fifth ruffle, and I have a sheet of fondant here, and I'm going to use circle cutter and then just go on and cut out circles of fondant. Okay, so I'm just going to keep this aside once I'm done with this. So now I'm just going to get a foam pad and place this circle. I'm just going to soften up the edge using the ball tool, center, cup it a bit, and then just go around and thin the edges. Okay, and you have it ruffling like that, and I'm going to fold it into half first and then into quarter. Okay, now this I'm just going to start attaching on the cake. So continue to do that. Soften the edge a bit to the center and then just go around with pressure. Fold it into half, then into quarter. So I'm just continue to make this, fill them, and then I'll get back when I'm here in the last row to show you how I'm going to complete this ruffle. So I've just completed the ruffles here. I have a smaller portion to just complete. So I'm just going to fold it and then press it against. So that will be the last one. You just covered this section with this ruffle, which is using the circle cutter, and then ruffling each of the circle, fondant circle, and then thinning down the edges and then folding them to have this beautiful unique ruffles here. And then we have one last ruffle, which will be the similar circles that we have done for this, and I'm just going to use it to place them as petals starting from bottom and then go all the way till up. So I'm just going to get the circles done, and I'm going to show you how to stick them and have the sixth fondant ruffle on this cake. So for the last section, I have these petals all done here. These were the same petals that was made and used for this, where we folded it and then stuck. Now what I'm going to do is just start attaching each of the petals individually from the bottom. You could do that from the top as well. So I'm just going to brush water. So starting with the first one, I'm just going to keep overlapping. And then start again on the top. Overlap on both sides and then overlap to the bottom row as well. Completed the last one as well. So you can just take a look. They are pretty good, but then the efforts of cutting them into strips is just reduced here because we have used the circle cutter to come up with the ruffles. Similarly, you could do them with petal cutters that you have in steel, which you will be using for, like, say, maybe rose. And then have the pointy sides facing downwards, and then you could just go. And also, if you're just going to cut out and then start placing them like immediately, like I've done the round, you could just allow the rose petal cut out with a pointy side just cupped up into shapes using the floral shape formers, and after it's dried out, and then you can just start placing them by sticking it using glue. So the pointy side is just curved outwards, and then it is going to be so beautiful on the outside. So that is another variation you could just try out. So here onto this, I'm just going to gently remove the toothpick. So the black stains, because the only reason I have a black here and then pink on top of that is for you to get a clear idea. So the ruffles that are here, as I'm placing, you could just look into the video a bit more clearly of what's exactly happening and how the petals are being arranged. Otherwise, if I had to do the pink ruffles, then the cake also should be covered in the same color as this, so the black stains that are seen here would be completely avoided. But this, if in case there is another color, then we could just rub it out using vodka and clear vodka with a brush, and that is just going to go. But here we just need to take a look at the ruffles here. We still need to go on with the beads to complete that, and here is the diagonal one and the plain and the classic ruffle here, and then the circle cutter overlapped, and this beautiful wrinkled cloth kind which we made using the circle cutter, and then the rosette here. So we have made around 6 different kinds of ruffles, and when we are just going to make this on the entire cake, is just going to be stunning. And this is just the beginning, and you could just use a lot of different ideas to come up with ruffles that you can use on the cake. So here we have the 6 kind of ruffles made, and ruffles come in really very handy when we have to use it even for a simple themed cake to up to the wedding cake. Like even for a wedding themed cake, ruffles come in handy, where the rosette ruffles are just going to be there like a stunning piece, or maybe in a themed cake where you have to do the pirate theme cake and the bottom tier is going to be that first ruffle that we made. So ruffles are just classic, and it is really good to have a lot of different ruffle varieties that we know in our repertoire.